far behind already.
Yeah, so it looks like players are still discussing. We have 2 blue players at the table, so they might be.
Is that the pause that's going on here? Is that we have?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I thought it might be technical issues, but I could definitely see there being communications. Like maybe somebody wants to force of will this Archon. That is definitely a possibility.
Yep.
And I think that's a very underrated aspect of CEDH. You know, if you're going to do something that powerful on turn 1, you're going to create enemies right away.
Oh, definitely. But it might not matter.
It might. That is very possible as well.
Yeah, so it looks like conversation is still happening right now.
Well, someone's gonna. I think this is the classic. Everyone's daring each other to counter it. All right. No, it's in play. It's resolved, and we've moved on.
All right.
That is.
Huh.
Okay, so it looks like it's Jamaican's due turn. He has just drawn. There was some talk in the pregame show about how much a rule of law effect was going to hurt this table. Archon of Emeria is a rule of law effect. How much is this about to affect the other players here? I mean, is this going to lock them out, or are they going to be capable of still making plays?
So a turn 1 rule of law effect is obviously different than turn 2, turn 3. And I think Archon specifically is just absolutely insane turn 1 on the play.
Yep.
It means everyone is 1-2 turns behind already. I think rule of law effects into this pod aren't that important because 3 of the 4 decks at the table can play around them. Like Pongo is the only one that doesn't have a line through a rule of law effect, and he can gain a lot of life every turn, worst case scenario.
Sure. Well, okay, so now the game's moved on. Oh. Yikes.
Oh,
okay, so
no.
So a little catching up since discussing the rule of law. A Jamaican dude has come back with a Mox Diamond to, you know, accelerate him into a more explosive turn 2. Obviously, the Archon is affecting him here pretty heavily, but he has a chance to have a good turn 2. And then HELIOD has come back with the Gemstone Cavern and a Basic Plains, notably, which is pretty important for them. To be able to get a Grafdigger's Cage in play and slow Rebel down. And then Pongo wanted to fetch with the Wooded Foothills, but no, Archon of Emeria doesn't let that happen. But back to Rebel.
So, double colored, 2 colorless. What is that?
That looks like TYMNA. I believe that is TYMNA, the commander. Yep. I don't think TYMNA is going to show on spell table for us, but TYMNA is a pretty famous commander. Am I correct? Is this not one of the defining commanders of CEDH?
TYMNA is definitely a fairly famous commander. For the past few years, she has been said to be one of the best commanders, especially in the Flash meta where it was TYMNA Thrasios.
Sure.
Now people have been looking more at TYMNA Thrasios Hulk, or not Hulk, Razaketh or Cats, and TYMNA Kraum.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, regardless, TYMNA is still out here, up to her shenanigans as she was previously. And Rebel there just getting it in play, getting some extra card advantage off of TYMNA, which is what it does so well. But even with the rule of law effect in play, Rebel couldn't really convert to a win, just got a little bit of value there, and now Jamaican dude is making moves. What does having a Malcolm in play do for his game plan going forward?
So he needs the Malcolm in play to do the Glinthorn Buccaneer lines. It's very, very important for the deck. I think there's only one other win con in the deck that doesn't involve Glinthorn Buccaneer. You just need to cast the commander when you can. It can ramp you. It gets you treasures. It's just a fairly good creature on top of being a combo piece.
I mean, fantastic. And that's if because it can ramp you, that does seem extremely important with the Archon coming in and all the lands being tapped. So this is a big play that Jamaican Dude needed to get back in the game. It looks like HELIOD has dropped a land tax as well, which is another great way of getting some basics to play around the Archon. Having missed the land drop, it seems like the land tax is going to be active for the rest of the game. And we're back on Pongo, I believe, who, oh man, the Archon, really brutal. A Wooded Foothills coming into play tapped, and then having to fetch a Trop too that's also tapped. Ouch.
Yeah. I think the graphics cage was super well timed. And Rebel's going to have a hard time getting around it because Rebel is not playing a slower deck. The Archon might not represent that, but Rebel is on a very fast combo plan. So might have kept a fast hand and just lose to Grafdigger's Cage, and you have to find an out here.
Okay, so now that there's a Grafdigger's Cage in play, and it looks like Rebel's ahead, and probably trying to find some sort of line that allows her to find a combo, are we looking at an alternate combo? Is there a different way for Rebel to get Protean Hulk in play, or do they need to just first remove the Grafdigger's Cage and then get it out of the graveyard?
So even if you hardcast Protean Hulk, when you sack it, it fetches things from your library. You have to get rid of the Grafdigger's Cage before you attempt the combo line.
Sure. Well, that's a big piece for Rebel, though. The only spell for her turn, but she did drop a Goblin Bombardment, which is the sack outlet you're going to need for the Protean Hulk once it's in play. So it looks like progress is being made. Ooh, and a suspended Greater Gargadon. So multiple sack outlets now.
Greater Gargadon is really cool.
That is a fantastic. Or that one. Does this see much play in CDH? It strikes me as a modern card.
I think it will now. I think this deck is really cool. We haven't seen much like this before. We've seen Hulk piles, but they've been mainly focused on blue because you have a very efficient Hulk pile in blue with Thassa's Oracle.
Sure.
Or Golgari, because you have some commanders that give you access to strong Hulk piles. I don't think it'll see that much play in a lot of decks. I think it has a specific niche because not having blue means you have a slightly, I wouldn't say worse, but different Hulk pile. It could be argued to be worse. Thassa's Oracle is a very hard card to deal with, and the breakfast combo is very strong.
Sure.
But in these sacrifice decks, or the ones that pretty much any Hulk deck that has access to red might want to consider this card because it is a very good card for what you're trying to do.
All right. So I agree, and it being an uncounterable sack outlet is a very, very powerful thing in a format with as many powerful counters as CEDH. But it looks like Rebel stopped after establishing her sack outlets, and now we moved on to Jamaican Dude casting a Preordain. What does Jamaican Dude want to get done this turn? I mean, I guess Preordain's the only spell they can cast, huh?
Yeah, you can't really
rough.
do anything after that, but you're just looking for the Glinthorn right now, or a tutor to get the Glinthorn. Like, your main plan is just to win.
Sure. And so the Malcolm attack is just a ramp yourself play set up for next turn, correct?
Yeah, and you always want to get damage in when you can. It might matter if this game starts getting a little slower. If HELIOD lands one or two more pieces, it could be very important every single piece of damage.
Sure. And it also looks like Jamaican Dude attacked Rebel there, which, Rebel, it does look to be pretty far ahead, so I understand it. But Pongo is the ad nauseum player. Is there any merit to attacking an ad nauseum player early in the game, or is Jamaican Dude just not considering that given that they could have counter spells for the ad nauseum?
So you usually would attack the ad nauseum player, but Rule of Law is in play. You can only cast one spell a turn, and it's very, very hard to play through that if you're playing a turbo deck. Rebel is also using her life as a resource and has a mana crypt out. So pressuring her life total is a little bit more important because she will be drawing cards with that life. It's much more immediate, the threat, than just an Adna's turn from Pongo.
Okay, definitely makes sense. Now, we've moved on to Heliod again. I believe this is their turn 3. Interesting because they did miss a land. No, their turn, or it is their turn 3. They did miss a land drop last turn, but put a land in play on turn 0. So, little awkward from that perspective. But we are fetching 3 land or 3. It looks like snow basics from a land tax, which is going to be pretty big because they are very unlikely to miss another land drop.
Yep. And after this, they can keep thinning their deck because Rebel should hit her land drops. She has 2 extra draws a turn, 3 extra draws a turn.
Yeah, I don't think Rebel will miss another one either. Although Rebel did miss one last turn, correct? So now the land tax player. Well, I guess the land tax player is hoping that Jamaican dude continues doing it.
Yes.
Okay. So now we have a deafening silence too. So there is all sorts of 1 spell per turn things going on here.
Pongo's not happy.
Oh no, and another tapped land. Pongo. Oh, a mana crypt though. Or mana vault, excuse me. That is big. That's the type of play that Pongo needed to get back in this game. Mana vault is a 1-shot mana artifact. If you're Pongo, what are you looking to dump this 3 mana into?
I'm not sure. He hasn't fetched for black yet. So we're not going to see an Adna's. You don't have the spells for Dark Ritual, even if you have a land. And I think the only basic in the deck is a island. It could be wheels. We could realistically see a wheel here.
Sure.
It could be something like Hull Breacher and then set up for a wheel. I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
Fair. Is there any interest in just jamming iKRAUM or Kraum here?
Oh, there's definitely interest in both of those things.
If
Either
you're
one of those would be powerful plays.
If you're Pongo, where are you starting, iKRAUM or Kraum?
You don't have black mana right now, so it kind of has to be Kraum.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so in between Pongo's turn and Rebel's turn, it appears to be on Pongo's end step. Rebel has cast a red elemental blast on Malcolm. So Jamaican's dude's combo has at least been set back a few turns, although he could reestablish Malcolm if he wanted to. And now, I'm sorry, I can't tell what card that is from Rebel. It does look like it comes with an artifact, though. Is that... I don't know. No, that wasn't it.
Looks like Loyal Apprentice, I think.
Loyal Apprentice, perfect. That comes with a Thopter. Both are hasty. So it looks like Rebel has just switched to the beatdown value plane with TYMNA at this point.
Yeah, like you're looking to draw cards. You need to find an out for the Grave Hate. And you have a bunch of creatures. You might as well turn them sideways.
Okay, so I think your point about Rebel needing to find an out for the graveyard hate, that does make sense. But do they really can Rebel just win with a beatdown plan? Can she put together more creatures? Does the deck have enough density that she could just beat down the whole table here?
So the issue with beatdown as your primary plan is Kraum is about to hit the battlefield, or iKRAUM is about to hit the battlefield.
Okay.
And you're going to have to deal with very large creatures from at least one of the players.
Sure.
And HELIOD can hit maybe the Malcolm player and make some smaller creatures very large.
Sure.
So we could definitely see bigger creatures. Rebel might have the most, but that might not matter when you're staring at a 4/4 and a 3/7.
So just classic limited gameplay here. Just what's the biggest creature on the table, and that matters.
Yeah.
I love it. That is awesome. So during Rebel's attack phase, it looks like Jamaican Dude dropped in with a snap to bounce TYMNA back to Rebel's hand, and that means Rebel is gonna miss out on the value from TYMNA, which I think is a really big play.
Definitely. -2-3 draws is very important right now.
Yep,
You
and
can't let Rebel get ahead
I think
more than she already is.
oh, definitely. Yeah, it looked like Rebel was starting to run away with the game, but that's a huge defensive play from Jamaican Dude. And then, Snap, I don't think is generally thought of as a removal spell in EDH, right? Like it tends to be more of a combo piece, as far as I'm concerned, or kind of like a ritual with Dockside Extortionist, from what I understand. But there, it's looking like a very strong removal spell.
It kind of doubles as a combo piece. It's very strong as a bounce spell because it just pays for itself. You can get rid of Collector Oof if you're playing this deck specifically on your turn, and then have the mana to activate Glinthorn or do something else.
Sure.
It's both sides of the coin. It is very strong as a Dockside doubler or as just a Nas turn spell because it pays for itself. Sometimes it goes mana positive.
Yep, I could believe. I mean, just right here is an example of a mana positive thing it could do. Ancient Tomb put into play by HELIOD. Now, unfortunately, it has come into play tapped because of Archon of Emeria, but it does look like they have a strong proactive play in Stoneforge Mystic coming down. What are you getting with Stoneforge Mystic here?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's either Jitte or Sword of Fire and Ice, it looks like.
Okay. So Umezawa's Jitte does appear to be the choice, and that is going to be very strong here. There are a lot of X1s on the table, and just having equipment in a game so bogged down by rule of law effects, it just seems so strong. It almost lets the Heliod player cast multiple spells a turn when you start using equip costs and things like that as pseudo spells, right?
Yeah. And like Jitte making the creature bigger is really relevant when staring at Rebel's board right now.
Sure. Okay, so I think we were right about Pongo's plan last turn, or at least you were right. Kraum has come down. Now, how much does Kraum being in play change the game? It is a 4/4. I mean, you said that was big already.
He's not going to take very much damage unless Rebel wants to start throwing creatures under him. Like, preserving the life total is very important right now, and Rebel has to target the other players who are finally getting creatures out.
Sure. Now, Kraum does have haste, and Pongo chose not to attack. Is that just a I want to play defensive thing? What do you think that was?
That's just preserving his life total. Kraum doesn't have vigilance, so you want to keep the 4/4 untapped because you're preventing Rebel from drawing cards,
Sure.
and you're preventing from the other players could just hit you in the face because you're the Nas player.
Totally makes sense. So a defensive play out of Pongo here, and looks like probably the best play available to him, just given how much this Archon has screwed up his early development. Okay, so now back to Rebel. This Loyal Apprentice is looking very strong with TYMNA. It makes an artifact every single turn? Another Thopter?
I think so.
I believe it does it once you control your commander.
Yes, as long as you control your commander, you get a 1/1 Thopter every turn.
So that, I mean, build your own Bitter Blossom going on here. That seems extremely strong.
And you don't take damage from it.
Yeah, exactly. Which matters because they're all drawing a card and losing a life every turn from TYMNA here. So TYMNA back in play. It looks like Rebel's just hard committed to the beatdown plan, and I can't say I blame her, given how many Stax pieces are currently in play.
So the issue right now is Rebel's at the lowest life total, even though she has the most creatures turning sideways.
Yep.
We could see just lose to Mana Crypt. Like,
That is true. Rebel does have a Mana Crypt in play and a Mana Confluence, which is not to be underrated either. The other thing too is it does look like Rebel has a pretty big board, but a lot of those creatures don't have a lot of toughness, and there is a Jitte coming down fairly quickly here.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so back to Jamaican Dude. Last turn opted to go with just a Findhorn Elves to accelerate into presumably a more explosive play this turn. What do you think Jamaican Dude is looking to do this turn?
Just assemble his A+B, get Malcolm back out, get Glinthorn out on his next turn, hopefully win.
Okay, so nothing... Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so nothing... Not out of the... Like, trying to go linear here. Just you want to keep seeing him try to get Malcolm into play?
Yeah, the deck is very, very good at trying to win over and over again. A lot of your deck can tutor your one card, and it's not an expensive combo, especially when one of the two pieces can ramp you into the other.
Now, I believe Malcolm costs 3 and has been removed 1 time, so it seems like we could have played Malcolm that turn for 5. Am I correct?
It does appear so.
And
so
he chose...
it could be holding up an instant.
Okay. Okay, so, yeah, it seems like, you know, it definitely has another plan here. I'm interested to see where he's trying to go. All right, now back to Heliod. We've got Heliod in play now. A Stoneforge Mystic active, ready to put the Jitte in at a moment's notice. Heliod not active, though, notably. It looks like we are 1 pip away from a Heliod being able to attack and block. But Heliod doesn't need that to be an effective card, right?
Correct. We would actually prefer to see Heliod not be a creature because creature hate could kill it. Right now it's just an enchantment with indestructible. Swords to Plowshares can't hit it.
Yeah, I mean, very valid point. And Heliod is part of the combo here, so you definitely want to leave that in play and find a Walking Ballista somehow to get that going.
Yeah, Walking Ballista right now could just win the game. We don't know what people are holding. It looks like Tana Malcolm has lots of mana. Maybe a Chord of Calling. Maybe something else. We will see.
Okay, and yeah, Jamaican Dude could cast a Chord here, right? It does. Yep, definitely enough green sources and a Findhorn Elves. Chord for 3 is possible. Glinthorn costs 3 or 4. It does cost 3, so we could have a Glinthorn here.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Looks like Rebel maybe 1 to flip with Mana Crypt, so the life total did not decrease. That's pretty large for Rebel there. Already sitting at almost half her starting life total. So each life point starting to matter a lot more. And to quickly backtrack to Pongo's turn, it looks like we used the Noxious Revival on a Wooded Foothills, which not ideally what you want to be using that card for, but sometimes you're in a bad situation, and it looks like, you know, Pongo's decided to take his medicine, make the best of a bad spot, and make sure he hits his land drops, which I think is very smart here.
Yeah, it feels really bad to put a fetch land on top with an Archon in play, but sometimes you have to do it.
Yeah, especially one that can't fetch the basic island. Ugh.
Yep.
But no, and I think that's the mark of a very disciplined player there, just making the play that you have to make sure that you can continue advancing. And I like that disciplined play. Okay, so finishing up Rebel's turn, it looks like we got some more attacks in. We got another Thopter out of it. The Greater Gargadon is getting closer to coming down, but Rebel didn't do much else after that, and she has a pretty full grip, so you have to imagine she had some options there. I wonder what she's setting up for.
I think we saw a Chord of Calling.
Oh, the chord was during combat. Excuse me. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. So Rebel has not actually passed. It looks like Jamaican Dude has just cast a Chord of Calling in the middle of Rebel's combat step instead. I assume we're getting a Glinthorn Buccaneer? Maybe not. Or was it countered? I don't believe anybody cast a counter spell.
It does not appear to have been countered. It might be searching right now, or Rebel might have effects.
Yeah, Rebel seems to have a response. No, it has to be second main phase already. Right? There's no way you can cast a Ranger or Captain of Eos at instant speed. And I do believe Rebel... I also believe Rebel drew
Yeah, it looks like Rebel
TEMUR.
drew off of TYMNA.
Oh, you know what I think happened here? Jamaican dude's monitor just froze for a second, so that's what's throwing us off.
Oh, okay, got it.
So I do believe Jamaican dude
No,
has finished searching.
Grafted it can't be put into play.
Oh no. Well, that is. I'll tell you this: when you play 101, it's hard to remember a Grafdigger's Cage, and I have certainly done it in 101. I have to imagine it's a lot harder in a 1v1v1v1 scenario to remember that's in play, especially when it's not necessarily set up to hate on your style of deck. But that's tough. That's going to be a tough one. Let's see if he can recover though, because I think that's the mark of a very strong player, is being able to take a mistake and turn it into a positive, or at least overcome it. So I'd like to see him make a good play this turn and kind of right the ship, if you will.
We might just see a Malcolm.
Bringing Malcolm down here? Okay, I could buy that. No, it looks like we're going a different direction. Ooh, a Gilded Drake. Okay. What are you stealing with the Gilded Drake here?
So Heliod's not a creature yet.
Yep.
Having an Archon would block things in the air. Having a TYMNA could get you a few draws. Having a Kraum gets you a 4/4. You could take the Loyal Apprentice if you wanted to go wide. I think Archon and Kraum, probably Kraum.
You think you'd steal Kraum? Okay, I can see it. There's a kind of a feel bad for Pongo losing the Kraum here, but
And anything
No.
that he tries to steal from, it looks like okay.
Okay, so it looks like Rebel used Goblin Bombardment plus some Thopters and their Bird of Paradise to kill the Gilded Drake.
Like
I thought the Gilded Drake still exchanged control, though. Am I crazy?
might have been targeting Birds of Paradise and then use the Thopter to kill the bird.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Still, a nice way to slow Rebel down there. That's a big portion of what Loyal Apprentice has done already, and it's hurt their mana development. So, nice way to start attacking Rebel's, I guess, leads so far. I will say though that quietly it looks like Heliod has a lot brewing here. You know, all the Stax pieces that the Heliod deck wants to have in play are in play. We've got the Grafdigger's Cage, we've got the Deafening Silence. Those are the hate pieces they're looking for. They've got a strong threat in Stoneforge Mystic, and Heliod's in play. And I think we've said most of the game that Rebel's winning, but would you still agree that's the case, or do you think Heliod has started to take the lead here?
I think if Heliod can land one more Stax piece, he's definitely in a winning position. One more graveyard hate piece, maybe like a Reston piece or something hard that just stops Rebel completely. Because life total is starting to matter less and less as you get these creatures out, because Heliod can just give lifelink.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so it looks
into play.
Yep, it looks like end of Jamaican dude's turn. We've Stoneforge Mystic in a Jitte, and now we're untapping to go to our turn. I believe this is turn 5 for Heliod, which is interesting. What would you say is the average turn in which a CEH game finishes?
It's hard to guess the average turn. In a tournament setting, so there are multiple different metas depending on where you play.
Sure.
In a Stax meta, it's significantly slower, and the games last for much longer than they otherwise would. In a mid-range meta, it's probably 4 to 5, and in a Nas meta, you're trying to win by turn 3. If you can't win by 3, you probably need a better hand. Sometimes you win on 2, sometimes you win on 1, but 3 is the goal for most CDH decks.
Sure. So, being that we've already hit 5, it looks like the Stax deck is doing what it's designed to do, and maybe this is partly because of the turn 1 Archon from Rebel kind of playing into Heliod's game plan a little bit. But it looks like Stax is set up really well, and oh my goodness, we've dropped a Sarah's Sanctum. Lands that tap for more than 1 mana are extremely powerful. Heliod now has 2 of them in play. How big is this for the game plan? Oh, it does come into play tapped, unfortunately. I did miss that. But still, that is, almost like casting multiple rampant growths here. It's going to tap for 3 mana with what's just on board. And if there's other plays here, it could get even bigger.
Yeah, so that will allow Heliod to play anything in his deck.
Okay.
We might see a Court of Grace soon. I'm hoping for a Court of Grace. One of the changes from this Heliod list from the one in the database was Court of Grace over what was it, Luminarch something?
Luminarch Ascension, yes.
Yes, Luminarch Ascension. And Court of Grace could just be the thing he needs to have the board. If it sticks, and if it just stays around for a few turns, you get a 4/4 every turn.
Yep. It also is card draw. Yeah, it gives you the Monarch as well, which is huge for a white deck that is lacking some card draw. So if we could get a Court of Grace, that would be a very, very big play for Heliod. I think would put them into the lead. But it doesn't look like any plays have been made yet. Instead, we're just equipping the Jitte to Stoneforge Mystic and presumably attacking somebody. Where are we going here? It almost looks like it kind of has to be Jamaican Dude, right? That's the only board that the 1/2 can get through on.
Yeah, you kind of have to just get through right now and get the counters up.
Now, if you're Rebel here and you see Heliod starting to take, starting to take the game over with this Jitte controlling the board, is there any thought to sacrificing 2 things to kill the Stoneforge Mystic in combat with your Goblet Bombardment?
Oh, I think there's definitely thought to that. And Jitte might just be pointed at the Loyal Apprentice first.
Sure. So if your Loyal Apprentice was going to die anyway, maybe it's better to just... Yep, and it does look like Rebel's going to do this. Yep, okay. Oh, but keeping the Loyal Apprentice instead of the Ranger Captain. Interesting. I guess that makes sense. The Loyal Apprentice will continue to give you more tokens, so probably a smart play.
Yep, you want to keep the threats in the air up and blockers for Kraum if it starts to turn sideways.
Sure. Okay, so does Heliod have a follow-up here? It doesn't appear like they have anything yet. And Pongo hasn't started taking their turn, so maybe they're just considering their plays or their path forward here. But now no more creatures to equip the Jitte to, so if we aren't seeing a Court of Grace here, it would be good to at least see something we can get this Jitte attached to.
Yeah. Any creature would work. You don't have the mana to win with Walking Ballista on this turn. You do on your next turn. So that could be something we see.
Okay. Is that a Sphere of Resistance? Chrome Mox, excuse me. It is a Chrome Mox. Beautiful Chrome Mox, too. I love the inventions for what it's worth. What are we going to pitch? Are we pitching anything? No imprint? Is there an imprint? Oh, okay. So we're waiting to see if it resolves, and it looks like we have imprinted Solitude, maybe? I can't tell what that is, but it's definitely a white card.
I don't think Solitude is in the deck.
Then probably wasn't Solitude, but it is a white card. I can assure you of that, because I see white mana symbols, and you can only play white cards to begin with. So, it does look like we have something there. Is the Heliod deck one that has a lot of instants, or is this kind of, I guess a more sad turn for the Heliod player?
It's kind of just more of a sad turn. You only have 9 instants in the deck, and 3 of them are kill spells.
Sure. Now, not to say when you're in as dominant a position as Heliod is, having turns like that is not necessarily a bad thing as long as you're setting up to have something happen here, which it looks like they're doing. I mean, they have given themselves so much mana on their next turn. It seems like they presumably are comfortable with the lock situation they have right now and are hoping that next turn they can do something explosive.
Yeah. Or it's been a few turns. They might just not have anything.
It is possible.
They don't have any value engines out really, and they haven't been drawing cards.
Sure. I mean, that is fair. And the deck probably just does not have very many of those. I know you mentioned Court of Grace, but how many ways can a mono white deck even draw cards? I mean, it seems like land tax is one of the better card advantage engines, and we have that, but it's only giving us basic lands.
Yeah, the best it's doing is really thinning your deck. We've seen 3 non-basics after the land tax. It hasn't done two non-basics after the land tax. It hasn't done that much besides thin the deck.
Sure. And now the land tax is just completely turned off. The HELIOD player does have the most lands in play, so it won't be fetching any more lands anytime soon. But okay. On to Pongo's turn. Pongo finally gets to untap the Wooded Foothills. It looks like they're setting up for a pretty... It looks like they're setting up for something. I don't know exactly what they have planned, but they're setting up for something, getting their mana in order, which, you know, I agree, I think was very smart. And finally, we're seeing them get aggressive with Kraum attacking Rebel, I believe. So getting Rebel's life total to start going down is going to put her in a pretty precarious spot.
Yeah, definitely. We could just see untap Mana Vault. I wouldn't put it past Pongo. Like, you're taking 1 damage a turn right now, and you could have access to 3 more mana on the next turn.
Sure, and another thing to consider too is that the Wooded Foothills cannot get a basic in their deck, so even though it has finally untapped, it's still tapped for all intents and purposes.
Yes, you have access to 2 mana right now.
So back to Rebel. Rebel has, you know, it looks like the Stax pieces have really, really capped her game plan, but still making the most of it with the value TYMNA. Rebel's got a full grip of cards. It looked like 7 when she passed, and I assume it's going to be even more after this combat phase. Is TYMNA a May? Can Rebel choose not to draw the cards, or is every attack costing her precious
TYMNA
life points
is a
at this
May.
point? TYMNA is a May?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, that is...
TYMNA is a May.
Okay, so that is important, but Rebel's still saying, it doesn't matter, give me the cards, I need some more. I love it. That is the type of greed you love to see in a Commander player.
Like, Rebel probably has the win in hand, just needs to get rid of that Grafdigger's Cage.
That would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. And, oh man, I love it. I love to just keep digging. And I think you have to do that. I think that's a really smart play on their part. It does look like, you know, when you start to get that low and you have Pongo attacking you, you know, from a spot where Pongo looks like he's kind of far behind, it can be really nervous to, you know, commit life points to drawing cards, but I love the dedication to it. I love the continue looking for it. And that is, I believe, a Wishclaw talisman. So, well, if Rebel needed something, they will have access to it next turn.
Yeah, so it looks like Rebel left the Thopter back to block the Kraum if it turns sideways again.
Okay.
And Wishclaw could be finding, like, Force of Vigor, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy. It looks like those are the main removal spells in the deck, for Cage at least.
Given how many cards Rebel has in hand, it's fairly likely she has access to a green one. Force of Vigor seems like it would be amazing here. You could lock down both the Deafening Silence and the Grafdigger's Cage. And you could do that on someone else's turn and still play around your own Archon of Emeria, which seems quite... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wishclaw Talisman you have to activate as a sorcery, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if I would hit the Deafening Silence. You already have the Archon in play. It's not really hurting your game plan at all. You might hit the Jitte because it could be equipped next turn. It could start trying to take your board out again.
Sure. I can buy that. That makes a lot of sense. And I think this is something that, you know, an experienced CEDH player will know how to do and understand the right way to go about it. But someone unexperienced, like, you know, myself or maybe one of the viewers here, blowing up a Stax piece before its time can be very dangerous. Would you like to elaborate on what, like, when you think the correct time is to get this Grafdigger's Cage off of the table?
As close to your turn as you can. If you have an instant speed removal spell, you try to do it on the end of Pongo's turn.
Sure.
You can't let anyone else have a turn with it off the battlefield. You don't know what's in their hand, and they could have been holding Court of Calling or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you might think that the Grafted Goose Cage is mostly hurting Rebel here, but we've already seen it do cross damage to another player on the table, so I think that's a very good point. So maybe the best place for Rebel to do this is Pongo's end step?
Very likely.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's back to Jamaican Dude here. He's put a Polluted Delta into play, which again has unfortunately come into play tapped. I'm curious to see where he wants to go from here. Is it time to get Malcolm back in play yet? No.
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I
5
think
mana.
so.
It could be Malcolm. It could be Malcolm. Nope. Thinking about something else.
Thinking about it.
And this is a tough spot. It does look like Heliod and Rebel, TYMNA and Tana, have started to kind of pull away from the other two players at the table. If you're Jamaican Dude or Pongo, what kind of turns are you looking for here to kind of catch yourself back up? I mean, can you even do that with an Archon in play? Do they need to just get the Archon off the table, or even the Deafening Silence as well?
Jamaican Dude has the 1 card a turn win con in the deck. Like, you have Glinthorn.
Okay.
That's not really the issue here. I think the issue is you're holding up something and you don't want Malcolm to be removed again, because if it's removed again, you're probably not casting it again this game. So you kind of have to find a spot to play it where you can protect it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because the next time he would go to cast, it's going to cost 7, right? So pretty unlikely to be able to do anything.
Yep.
Okay. And here, during Jamaican Dude's turn, maybe combat, I'm not sure the exact phase, but during their turn, it looks like Heliod has come with an unexpectedly absent going at Goblin Bombardment. Why are we getting the Goblin Bombardment off the table here? Is it just to make it so the Protean Hulk doesn't have a sack outlet if the cage gets removed?
So you still have the sack outlet for another 2 turns, 3 turns with
Sure. Gargadon.
Gargadon. I think it's getting rid of it so Heliod can land a creature, maybe a Walking Ballista.
Okay, that makes sense. Because the Goblin Bombardment could break up a Walking Ballista turn. Next turn, we want to get the Goblin Bombardment off the table, so the only thing you have to worry about are actual removal spells from Jamaican Dude or Pongo. I don't believe Rebel has very many removal spells that are going to hit a Walking Ballista in their deck. Like, their removal spell was the Goblin Bombardment, probably, right?
I think it's just the 3 that I mentioned before that can also hit the cage. Just
Okay.
Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Force of Vigor.
So it is interesting because Rebel could have. Ooh, and there's a Swan Song for the Unexpectedly Absent. Interesting play out of Pongo. I think
Gets the creature for Jitte.
he does get the creature for Jitte. That is big. And I think Jitte, Rebel could certainly stop that, but I think maybe Rebel will let that happen. I think there's some discussion going on at the table here where they kind of realize Heliod is about to Walking Ballista them and now has the mana to do it. So maybe Pongo's protecting the Goblin Bombardment to keep the Heliod player from winning, because Swan Song cannot counter an artifact, only instant sorceries and enchantments, I believe.
Swan Song has a lot of text.
It does have a lot of text, but I believe it's only instant sorceries and enchantments. So, if that's your counter spell and you can't stop the Walking Ballista, probably smart to make Rebel sacrifice a decent portion of her board to be able to stop the Ballista for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So I believe this was all happening during Jamaican Dude's turn, and now we have passed, and no Malcolm in play either. So it looks like Jamaican Dude has something else they'd like to do here.
Or it's just holding the Malcolm back because Goblin Bombardment is a card that's on the battlefield.
Okay, that makes sense too. Certainly makes sense. All right. Well, now that you've seen the table kind of come to a consensus that they want to stop you, how are you feeling from the Heliod seat? Are you a little more scared about your position? Or do you feel comfortable with the table starting to maybe gang up on you a little bit?
I think you just want to land a flail or something like that right now.
Okay, so
if you can land a flail, it's probably game over.
Now, what does the flail do?
It makes it so your opponents can't cast spells during your turn if it's
Okay.
equipped.
Okay,
Abolisher does the same thing, but it can be pinged down by Bombardment.
sure. So you get the flail into play, and then the only thing they have to worry about is the Goblin Bombardment still sitting in play.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then that would make sense about why they were trying to get the Goblin Bombardment off the table in the first place. But here we have the Swan coming in, and it looks like it's going at Rebel. Unfortunately, Jitte does need to do combat damage, and Rebel is going to have the option to sacrifice 2 Goblin Bombardment here to stop counters from being put on the Jitte. But Rebel's losing their board, and that's going to start getting worse every turn, especially when you want the board with the Goblin Bombardment in play.
It looks like Rebel is just throwing the Thopter in front of it, not sacrificing 2 creatures to kill it.
Really? Well, you're not sacrificing the thing to kill it. You block with the Thopter and then sacrifice it to Goblin Bombardment so that Umezawa's Jitte does not get counters. So a very heads up play by Rebel there. Very strong sacrifice. Just knowing how the interactions work. I mean, that's a very strong play to make. And given that Rebel has the board with the most creatures on it, very, very intelligent to not let that Jitte get going, because that thing can be devastating for creatures.
Definitely.
So I do believe we're in Heliod's second main phase. After the sacrifice effect, there maybe is discussion about the counters going on. I'm not sure the exact scenario. I would guess it revolves around, does Jitte get counters, because that's never an intuitive thing. Jitte wasn't an intuitive card to begin with. And then you have weird sacrifice things going on at the same time. So there's going to be some weird things happening here. But I do believe this is the correct scenario where Jitte won't get counters. But is there a way to recur the Walking Ballista from the Heliod deck's perspective? Can we run the Ballista out and then get it back at some point and try the combo again? Or is it the type of thing where Heliod is only going to get one shot and he needs to make the most of it?
So you usually would be able to get it back. You have a few lands that do that, a few other cards, but there is a Grafdigger's Cage in play that you have to play around. I think you're only going to get one shot this game.
Okay, so given we only have one shot, I think your play of a Conqueror's Flail or an Abolisher, something along those lines, would make a lot of sense. It doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem like we've quite committed to anything yet. It does appear they're still either having a discussion or in a judge ruling. I am not positive. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with there, but I would guess it's still a judge ruling. Not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I was saying, so I want to take a while they're working this out and trying to come to a conclusion about where we're at. I'm curious, what do you want to see from Pongo on this turn? You were last turn you were saying you wanted to see the Mana Crypt untapped, or Mana Vault, excuse me, the Mana Vault untapped, and just set up for some more mana. It does look like Pongo has finally given himself access to double black between a City of Brass and a Blood Crypt. Do you still think we want to untap this Mana Vault, or could we maybe have the one basic and cast an Ad Nauseam this turn? We're still at 28. Ad Nauseam is worth a lot of cards.
Yeah, so the issue is, you are at 28, but there's a rule of law in play. You can only play, one of the... Oh, it looks like Silent on the stack. You can only play one of the spells off of Ad Naus on the next turn.
Okay.
You only have a few removal spells, and if you cast Ad Naus with only 5 mana, you will be waiting until your next turn to do anything.
Okay. That makes sense. So it looks like Rebel decided to fire off a Silence, maybe in combat, to slow Heliod down. Interesting. There has to be some other context there that we're missing from the discussion, but we know Rebel would only do this if there was a reason for it. So it appears the table is scared about something Heliod was going to cast here. And it does look like Pongo went with your line here of untapping the Mana Crypt, which I like. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And just get the mana in place. So Pongo is just hard committed to this just develop resources plan, and I can't say they're wrong. It just this Archon just from turn one has just been so devastating to this game plan.
Yeah, definitely. So we saw the 5th land. We could see iKRAUM next turn without tapping the Manifold.
Okay. And that would be big too, right? Because then Pongo can just start gaining life and attacking every turn.
Just getting ahead, getting in with the 4/4.
Which is huge from this, this point in the game, because it doesn't appear like anybody's going to be comboing anytime soon. No one seems to be particularly close. Maybe Heliod? Heliod is maybe
Heliod
close?
Looks pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, I guess if Pongo or if Rebel was willing to cast the silence in combat there to stop them, then maybe they have a tutor, or maybe they know, maybe there's been some sort of indication that Heliod maybe has the Ballista already, but there's been no actual tutor for Ballista, so we aren't positive that they have the Ballista already, correct?
Yeah, correct. We have not seen a revealed Ballista or a tutor that would only realistically tutor Ballista. We do see Wishclaw from Rebel, and it still hasn't been used, it appears.
Yeah, so we were saying before that Rebel, Force of Vigor seemed like a very good target. And if you want a combo, that's probably the best target, but is there maybe a fair thing you want to get? Can we just get creatures and just keep adding to the board, or is that just going to lose to iKRAUM plus Kraum?
I think that just loses to iKRAUM plus Kraum. Something to note, though, is you will have a 9/7, I believe, in 2 turns.
Oh, yeah, with a giant Greater Gargadon. Fair. You think of it as a sack outlet, but it does attack. It does get in there. Okay, so Rebel, even at 16, no longer leaving back blockers for Kraum. I like it. That's some aggressive play. I want to see if she draws the cards here too.
It definitely is aggressive.
With the Mana Crypt in play, with multiple lands that hurt you, with a TYMNA, using your life total to draw cards, not leaving back a blocker, it's so aggressive. But man, that's the type of plays the strong players like to make. They like to just give themselves the opportunities to be making action happen, whether it's forcing people to make bad blocks or finding cards that are going to give them other options. And I really like how Rebel's managing her life total here.
Yeah, so we see the TEMUR turn sideways, so she will gain a little bit of life too. It won't be that bad if they choose to draw, and did choose to draw.
Okay. And each one's a May, right? So presumably she could draw up to 3 cards here. But it looks like only 2. Or no,
I think
it's not.
It's not. To draw all or none.
Does TYMNA not count itself? Is that how this works?
TYMNA does count itself, but you can't get through with a Kraum on the battlefield.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Regardless, Rebel drew 2 cards there, it appears. And then I believe we're still in her second main phase.
I think so. I don't think we've seen a spell cast this turn yet.
I don't believe so either. So Rebel definitely, after drawing all these cards, after getting this land in play, Rebel's gonna have the option to use this Wishclaw Talisman. If you're Rebel here and you go get something, maybe a Force of Vigor, maybe an Assassin's Trophy, maybe she has one of those things and wants the Necromancy or a discard outlet or something to get the Protean Hulk in the graveyard. Maybe even a Protean Hulk, who knows? But if you're Rebel, who are you giving the Wishclaw Talisman to after you use it?
So I think that's the main reason why we haven't seen Wishclaw activated yet. I think a cool line is using Wishclaw to find Force of Vigor and then blowing up the Wishclaw. But to do that, it will get a chance to be activated unless, well, no, you can give it to Pongo. Yeah, so you can find Force of Vigor and then blow up the Wishclaw with the Grafdigger's Cage before Pongo's turn.
Okay, so that seems like a pretty strong line. Now, Rebel has come in. Her spell for turn is Survival of the Fittest. That's a good one. That's a very strong card in EDH.
Definitely is a very strong card.
But still, it doesn't appear we've used the Wishclaw yet. So maybe Rebel is concerned about how close someone else is to doing something powerful and wants to not quite maybe blow up the Grafdigger's Cage or blow up something else, or maybe just hasn't committed, figured out exactly the right card to get, or is scared to give the Wishclaw away. All seem to be options, and kind of hard to know exactly where we are at on it, but it does appear like we're still in Rebel's turn. Okay, so probably just deciding what's going on with the Wishclaw or deciding to use the Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah, so if you have Survival of the Fittest out, you have access to Marilyn of the Morning Song Opposition Agent line. It's in the deck. It's not something you're going to focus on kind of ever, but it is a win con in your deck.
Yeah, that allows you to tutor every single turn instead of your opponent's ever drawing another card, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would be good. It would be a little scary, though, given that you have a Mana Crypt.
And 16 life.
And 16 life, but 16 is not a multiple of 3, so at least a little bit further. At least we'd have to lose 6 flips instead of 5 from where we're at currently.
It does 3 damage every turn.
To you as well, or to the opponent? Yeah, okay. So that's not very many tutoring. There are very many tutors.
You do get to tutor everyone else's deck on each of their turns, because opposition agents you steal their tutors.
And then they lose the 3 life?
Yep.
Okay, so I assume we could put together something there. But it does look like Rebel has opted to use Survival of the Fittest. Let's see what creature she chooses to reveal here. And it looks like Pongo is tapped out currently, but Jamaican Dude, on his last turn, it seems could have played Malcolm and chose not to. So I wonder, still has a mana up, still hasn't really done anything with his spell for this turn. I wonder if he's got something planned here. Think he's holding up some sort of instant, maybe a kill spell to blow something up?
Could be, or it's just that, Rebel can sacrifice their entire board to kill a Malcolm, and then you're out of the game. And that is something you have to be worried about.
Okay, so maybe just not making plays because there aren't any good ones to be made at the current moment.
Yeah.
Well, that would be unfortunate. I'm really hoping he's got something planned, because it's been a tough game. There's been some tough breaks. Just the turn one Archon has just been tough for this whole board, except kind of the Heliod. The Heliod players just kind of taking it in stride, which makes sense. They're playing basic lands and wanting to stack pieces to begin with. But yeah, that turn 1 from Rebel was just so powerful. It just seems like it's kind of kneecapped both Jamaican Dude and Pongo.
Yep. I want to see Opposition Agent here because it does have flash. You can play it on someone else's turn.
Okay.
And it allows you to have the combo by next turn if you're going for that line.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't believe Rebel's revealed anything yet, so it'll be interesting to see where Rebel goes here.
Or you could just assemble.
Sorry, did Rebel reveal something?
I don't think so.
It looks like there's a card upside down. Maybe we've decided on something. Oh, and I'm just now noticing this, so I'm a little late on it. But it looks like Rebel's TYMNA altar is actually the same art as on her sleeves, and I have to say that is awesome. There's so much style there. It's so good. It's so good. Oh man. Okay, so it looks like Rebel's made a decision on something. I don't quite know what. Clearly there's some conversation going on about something. Hopefully we can figure out. Yeah, hopefully we can figure out exactly when or what she tutored for. Oh, I missed it. And now we're fetching for something. I do believe the tutor resolved, though. I just missed what was fetched. Any chance you saw this?
I did not see it.
Unfortunate. We had we were getting something from somewhere else, yeah. So there's some other things happening there, but we'll figure out what it was that Rebel tutored for with survival.
It appears like a Grand Abolisher.
Grand Abolisher. Okay. So Grand Abolisher is what is being searched for here. And now we are fetching with Marsh Flats. I do believe Rebel already cast survival this turn, so she's not going to be able to cast any more spells. Still with the option to use survival again, or to use the Wishclaw Talisman if given the choice.
Having the ability to tutor any creature in your deck right now, that's a third of your deck. You don't really want to tutor a land off Wishclaw. Okay, so
non-creature spells. Is it non-creature spells? Is that Archon? I thought Archon was only one spell.
Archon is all spells, but
can
be sacrificing Archon because there's a deafening silence in play that prevents the other players from doing the thing, and you can play all your creatures now.
Got it. So because there's a deafening spell or deafening silence in play, Rebel is completely safe to sacrifice the Archon because the people trying to double spell with non-creature spells are still going to get hurt, and she will be completely safe to cast multiple creature spells a turn.
Yes, it appears so.
All right, so pretty heads up line there from Rebel finding that, and now it looks like she's just gone for it. I mean, it looks like there's moves being made here. Pongo doesn't really have that much they can do to stop it. Maybe Jamaican Dude does. Oh,
I mean, you can't really do anything with Grand Abolisher in play.
Oh yeah, there's a Grand Abolisher in play. No one's stopping this. So free reign to do whatever Rebel wants, except cast another non-creature spell, notably, because that crop route was not legal. We have retracted it.
Accidentally dropped it.
Fair enough. But free to cast more creature spells. Could also use the Wishclaw Talisman if there was some line here that could get her the win.
I think the main issue is you just can't remove the cage right now. Like, you don't have a creature that does that in your deck.
Sure. So then maybe I still really like your line there of give the Wishclaw away to someone else and get the Force of Vigor, but Pongo gets to draw a card off Kraum. I was gonna say it didn't seem like Kraum was gonna generate very many cards this game with Deafening Silence plus Archon of Emeria in play, but casting multiple spells using creatures has allowed Pongo to get some card advantage, which seems badly needed at this point.
Oh, definitely.
Pongo's deck is also the type of deck that has a lot of free spells in it, right? I mean, you're an Adnaw's deck. You're probably gonna have free counters. Giving Pongo extra cards can be dangerous.
Yep. Counters don't matter when staring at a Grand Abolisher, though.
All of that's true, but maybe for other people's turns, or once you get on to Jamaican Dude's turn, or Evaldi here with the Heliod, someone could kill the Grand Abolisher and then let Kraum kind of get us back in this game. Well, so now I'm curious: is Rebel just clearly winning now? Is she in a spot where the rest of the table is going to start coming after her, or is it still close between her and Heliod?
I think it's still fairly close, but Rebel has the Goblin Bombardment still and can kill a Ballista unless it's big enough. That is something you have to be concerned about if you're trying to jam a Ballista.
Well, I mean, Heliod can make a lot of mana right now. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So like a basic plains, which we are fairly certain they have given they had a land tax, gives them 12. You could cast a 5/5 Ballista if they have the Ballista already. And I don't believe Rebel has enough creatures to stop that. Rebel has 4 on board.
So you have to remove a counter at one point in the Ballista combo line. I think you need it to be a...
Oh no, you're
I
right. It
think
would
needs to be a 6/6.
You're right. It would need to be a 6/6. Yep. There's not going to be a window there, provided Rebel knows, how to stack the triggers correctly, and the Heliod player also knows how to stack the triggers correctly. No one, or the Heliod would not be able to win through that scenario. And I think when you're playing against players this good, you just have to assume they're going to stack the triggers correctly. So you can't make a play that risky and just hope they get it wrong.
Definitely.
But it looks like Jamaican Dude is fetching. With the Archon gone, finally able to fetch an untapped non-basic. I'm sure that feels good for the table.
Yeah.
He was, during Rebel's turn, he was pointing at Malcolm. I'm curious what he was discussing with Malcolm there. Was it...
Might just be asking if Goblin Bombardment's hitting it if it comes down.
Okay. That makes sense. Rebel is in a spot where she's trying to control the table with Goblin Bombardment, and, it looks like she has the number of creatures in play to kind of stop one thing, but certainly not two. So playing this game of killing Malcolm or walking Ballista is pretty interesting.
Yep. Rebel could just be one turn away from taking this game. Like, we could just see it on the next turn, because you can Wishclaw and then use the Wishclaw. Archon's not in play anymore, you can cast creature spells. So if your way to put Hulk into play is either casting a Hulk or casting a creature spell, you could just take the game.
Well, we still have the Grafdigger's Cage, correct? So she could play the Hulk, but yeah.
You can Wishclaw for removal and play it on that turn, and then attempt the win still on that turn, as long as you're only using creature spells to attempt the win.
Got it. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. And no one's going to stop her with the Grand Abolisher in play. Okay, so Jamaican Dude has come in with a Dockside Extortionist, which is obviously an extraordinarily strong play. That is one of the best cards in all of CEDH. This card's just unbelievably strong. It's just one of the best cards in the format. So that's the type of play that you want to be, aware of and scared of. Giving a combo player access to that much mana, which would be a lot of mana. I don't have a count right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Something like 12 mana, 11, 10 plus mana from the Dockside, given just what's in play now. It looks like Rebel was trying to mitigate the damage by sacrificing a Thopter to Goblin Bombardment.
Maybe to kill the Lenore Elves, or...
Yeah, it does look like she pointed it at Findhorn. Yep.
It doesn't matter that much, though.
Yeah, I guess maybe face. Yeah, what's the difference between 11 or 12 mana? It looks like he's getting 11. 12? Can't tell.
Something you have to be concerned about now is Glinthorn Malcolm is all creatures. So if you can prevent Rebel from activating Goblin Bombardment, you can just win with this mana.
Now, does the Grand Abolisher apply to other opponents, or it's just it does say that opponents can only can't cast spells during Rebel's turn, correct?
Correct, but
okay.
If Jamaican Dude has something similar in the deck, it could definitely help a lot right now.
Oh yeah, and if Jamaican Dude has it, he can cast it because he has so much mana now. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Well, you were saying before, if you were Jamaican Dude, you would want to hold back Malcolm to a spot where you could protect it, and this is going to do that, right? Like, if he wanted to put Malcolm in play here and pass, you certainly could and still hold up however many counter spells he has in his hand.
Yeah, so the issue with that is Rebel's making another creature on their turn.
Yep.
Actually, did we miss a Argon trigger? Maybe.
It is
or has
possible.
it just been going this slowly?
I am not sure.
Okay. 1-2 creatures, it doesn't matter that much. But
Ooh,
it's going to be harder to keep Malcolm. Yeah, so this is probably hitting Bombardment. And if you can get that Bombardment back in hand.
When he played the Chain of Vapor, he was targeting Dockside.
Oh, sure.
So this is going to force. Yep, this is going to force Rebel to either sacrifice creatures that she cares about quite a bit, or just let it happen and give Jamaican Dude another 10 plus mana or whatever it is. And then also, given that Jamaican Dude targeted himself, if the spell resolves, he's going to have the option to sacrifice islands to bounce something else, which could be the Bombardment or the Grand Abolisher to open up, a spot for him to do some serious damage to Rebel here.
Yeah, I think the end goal is just get rid of Bombardment because it's pretty late in the game. You probably have a win in hand or a way to get the win by now.
Yep.
Doubling Dockside isn't that important. Like 10 versus 20 mana isn't very relevant at this point in the game, especially when you have 4 more untapped lands. But just getting rid of that instant speed kill spell whenever Rebel wants to use it is very, very important for a creature combo line.
Okay. I mean, I definitely agree with you. It'll be interesting to see how he uses this Chain of Vapor. It looks like there's some discussion based on maybe where it's targeting or where it's going, unsure, but definitely some options here. I'm going to be honest, I was kind of counting Jamaican Dude out, on Rebel's turn. It looked kind of like Rebel or HELIOD was going to win, but all of a sudden, it looks like maybe he's found a way back into this game. Can he win this turn? If he gets
Definitely can win
Bombardment off the table?
Yep, if Bombardment leaves, Malcolm can enter, Glinthorn can enter, and then it's game over.
Okay. So, man, that would be awesome. It'd be so good to see him, come back from the Court of Calling mishap and pull this game off. That'd be amazing. So let's see if he can find the line here. It's tough. Yeah. There's no one's gonna let this happen. I mean, if he's about to win, obviously everyone's gonna put everything they have left into stopping it.
Yeah, you have to stop something here if he has everything in hand.
Well, he's also gonna have to do it without any other non-creature spells too, because the Deafening Silence still hasn't left.
Yep.
So, if he's going to find the win, it's going to have to be based on just having drawn Glenhorn Buccaneer. And we haven't seen him reveal it and put it in his hand, but there's also been a bunch of turns, so it's very possible he's drawn it already.
Yeah, it's fairly likely he has it in hand. I would assume if I was an opponent that you just have the combo and you probably want to stop this Chain of Vapor right now.
Sure. Now, if he is targeting the Dockside, it looks like there are ways to stop it. You can fizzle bounce spells by killing the target, but we don't even know. It's not clear where it's going quite yet. So it's unclear if they can stop it. The HELIOD player certainly isn't going to be able to counter it. And Malcolm maybe could counter it. The Grand Abolisher isn't stopping, or not Malcolm. Pongo could counter it. The Grand Abolisher is not stopping him from casting Force of Will now during Jamaican Dude's turn. Or some other force effect. Fierce Guardianship, maybe. He does have a commander in play. I'm not even sure if Fierce Guardianship is in his deck, but if it is, okay. I thought it was
2 swats.
2 deflecting swats? Oh, because Rebel has them as well.
Yes.
Okay,
so
we could just see someone deflecting swat the chain, and then Jamaican Dude is going to be somewhat defenseless to that. He can't follow up with a counterspell given the Deafening Silence. So a deflecting swat would be a good way to stop this here, if someone has one, of course. Looks like maybe there's a judge call going on of some sort. Or maybe not a judge call, but at least some sort of discussion. There is clearly... This Chain of Vapor is going to be very important. What's going on here? The Dockside has put him in a spot where he could win. And what happens with this Chain of Vapor, I think, is going to maybe determine the outcome of this game.
We have 8 minutes before we take a break.
Okay, so it does appear at 2:30 we're going to have a hard cut on the game. Did they say we would be resuming afterwards? I do believe.
Yes, we will
Okay.
resume afterwards, but there will be an interview with Sheldon in between.
Cool. So you just heard that here. I believe they've mentioned it before, but at 2:30 we're going to have Sheldon Menery from the Rules Committee on the stream to talk about CEDH, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be super cool to hear from him here. All right, so some action has been made. Rebel is making some play. We're casting something. A crop rot. Rebel did want to cast the crop rotation before, so she's gonna get to sacrifice something. And sacrificing, it appears, a Savannah.
So Rebel can find Gaia's Cradle here.
Okay, so Rebel could have a lot of mana here. Although I guess Gaia's Cradle's only tapping for 3 at this point, which is still a lot of mana, but that's all it's tapping for currently. Again, the Bombardment has really kept her creature aggregation in check, which you'd expect from a card like that.
Yep. And all of the players have been doing an excellent job just making sure the Thopters don't get out of control, making sure Bombardment doesn't have enough fuel to wipe the board.
Yeah, and that's a really tough line to walk, right? How much do you want to force Rebel to sacrifice things to stop you? Like, what can you afford to have stopped? All of that. That's a very intricate line to walk, especially when you're balancing it against 3 other players doing the same thing. But I agree with your assessment. They've done a very good job of it so far. Because Rebel easily, like, if Rebel wasn't forced to use the Bombardment at multiple spots earlier in this game, Rebel would have, I don't know, 4, 5, maybe even 6 Thopters to this point, and this Gaia's Cradle would be ridiculous.
Definitely. And Rebel would be getting in with 6 more flyers every turn.
Yep. Drawing more cards. Well, Rebel did opt to go with the Gaia's Cradle, so
I don't think drawing cards is even the biggest worry. It's just the life totals. Like, HELIOD could be dead by now.
Yeah, 22 is still pretty high. I guess you're right, though, that 6 adds up really quick. And we still haven't had anything happen. All right, well, Rebel's adding 3 mana with the Gaia's Cradle. We're going to do something. I'm not sure. She used survival of the... It was survival of the fittest.
Is that discard Maryland?
It looks like Rebel discarded Maryland, yeah. But she wanted opposition agent, so this makes sense. There was enough mana to tutor for opposition agent, or to discard Maryland to tutor for opposition agent, and get opposition agent in play before the Chain of Vapor can resolve. It looks like Rebel is doing all this with the Chain of Vapor on the stack to presumably stop some sort of follow-up, maybe. Oh. And Pongo is force negationing the Chain of Vapor. Interesting. So I think everyone else was just as scared of Jamaican Dude going off and winning here with all the Dockside mana as you were. And so now we're back on Rebel having an opposition agent in play. And if you see Rebel discard Maryland, which combos with opposition agent, is that an indication that Rebel has access to a way to remove this Grafdigger's Cage already?
Maybe. It might just be Rebel was holding up Maryland, didn't really want to find the opposition agent, but was forced to because Jamaican Dude could just win this turn.
Fair. Okay, so that would make some sense. She also, it did appear she wanted to cast the crop rotation on her turn, but obviously couldn't for Deafening Silence reasons. So maybe this was just the best time to do that post, her first turn. Or the last turn. But like we said previously, it does appear that we're going to cut speaking to Sheldon. So I do believe they're handling the game in some way where it's going to be paused so people can so we can have a conversation with Sheldon here at some point. All right. Okay, so still a little unclear where we are exactly in the turn order. There is a pause coming here. Again, we're gonna have this interview with Sheldon very quickly. We're still in Jamaican Dude's turn. The Dockside, the original Dockside is resolved. The Chain of Vapor has been countered. We have an opposition agent in play. It's unclear if he's passed from that point. I imagine we'll finish his turn before going to the interview. I am not sure though. It's kind of hard to tell where they're at in the passing of priority, but looks like something's coming here. Nope. So it does seem like we're going to be pausing this here. All right. Welcome, everybody, back to the game here. I want to thank Alan and Sheldon, especially. I mean, obviously, super awesome to have someone from the Rules Committee, especially Sheldon, stop by the stream. It's really, really cool. Awesome to hear what he had to say about CEDH, too. So really appreciate him doing that and wanted to say thank you from everybody here to him for that. But we have an incredible CEDH game, excuse me, going on here. We're in the middle of. Ace had to step away, so I have been joined now by Squirrel Mob. Squirrel, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Pretty good. So just as a reminder, we left off, I believe it was either in the middle of Jamaican Dude's turn or right at his end step, right before HELIOD was going to untap. Somewhere in his turn, there was a Dockside. There was a crazy Chain of Vapor. This game has been incredible. Not sure who's in the lead. We'll get to it, but I believe the players are ready to get started. So let's let them go. Yep. So whatever the players are ready, let's get back into it. 1 second. I have screwed something up. And there we go. Okay, so players are back. It looks like Jamaican Dude is discussing where they're at in his turn, maybe, or in the middle, or where they're at in priority. I don't know. It's very complicated to pause in the middle of a CEDH game, especially as one as in-depth and long as this, so just so we're clear. But looks like the players are picking up their hands. They're getting ready to play again. So we should be good to go here momentarily, as soon as the players figure out exactly where they're at. Squirrel, you've been watching the game from the sidelines, right?
Indeed, I have.
So how are we feeling about this one? This has been intense.
It has had a lot of back and forth. There's a couple spots where I think a few players were trying to set up to go for it, and various wrenches got thrown in the works. So it's been a very evenly matched game here. Pongo feels a little behind, but the other three all seem like they're in pretty good spots.
Oh, definitely. And I wanted to say, I've been, obviously, a lot of people know Rebel's a great player. There's a lot of good players here. Jamaican Dude has really impressed me with, first missing the Court of Calling, which, is a tough thing when you don't see the Grafted cage. It's an unintuitive interaction sometimes, missing it. But then the way he's been able to recover has just been very, very impressive to me.
Absolutely. And
it's... Sorry, go for it.
The line he was taking here on his turn that got answered by Pongo's Force of Negation, the Chain of Vapor there, was likely going to result in him attempting to go for a win there as well. Because basically, we're in a spot where each of the players right now is shut down by one of the Stax pieces on the board.
Yep. Yeah, and man, Jamaican Dude has just done such a good job. Like, there was a turn where he just passed and did absolutely nothing because he knew that if he put Malcolm in play, it could be lights out for him. He could get, just beat by the Goblin Bombardment, the Rebel head going. And man, just the discipline, the ability to just overlook a mistake that was made and just move on from it has just been so impressive. So, really curious to see where we're on this turn and where he plays out from here. That Force of Negation was huge to stop the Chain of Vapor, because I agree with you. I think he was going to win right there. But we'll see where he's at now.
I was listening into the chatter from the players while I was spectating, and it seems like the Force of Negation was actually a top deck off of the Kraum trigger.
Oh my goodness.
Really
okay.
fortuitous.
That's brutal for Jamaican dude, but again, he's just been, it seems like he's been able to overcome everything negative for him so far. Let's see what he can pull off from where he's at currently.
Yeah, I think we're at a crux here with whatever Charles sets up on his next turn. If he's got something like Triskelion in hand, like that's going to threaten a win right away. But the question is whether or not he will be able to, if he doesn't just be able to go for the win, what other value pieces can he set up here? Because I suspect that Bird's not going to be able to get through to get any counters on that Jitte.
Yeah, I imagine that the Jitte is going to have a very hard time connecting with anything while there's a Goblin Bombardment in play. So maybe he does need the value things, but it doesn't. He also could just. You're right. He could just win with a Triskelion or a Walking Ballista if he can get it big enough. Okay, so it looks like we're in the middle of Jamaican dude's turn. He's discussing putting Malcolm in play. Maybe he wants to cast Malcolm. Maybe he's wondering where Malcolm stands on its survivability.
Yeah, I got to imagine he's talking this out right now with, if not the other players, he's walking through it himself right now. That's
sure.
Got to be what's happening.
Well, and you were right. This is a very, very intricate spot because the only thing stopping Charles from winning on this turn, or on his next turn, maybe he doesn't have the piece. If he doesn't have the Triskelion or the Walking Ballista, then obviously he won't be able to win. But if he has the thing stopping him is the Goblin Bombardment, and if Jamaican dude goes for it here and then forces Rebel to use, essentially her entire board to kill the Malcolm, then Charles is in the clear.
Yeah. Well, one thing that can be a piece here is that Glinthorn Buccaneer, its activated ability, which is what discards it to trigger it, can only be activated if it's attacking. So there's potentially a spot where Rebel can only have to use one creature for the bombardment to kill the Malcolm. And interestingly, she can actually sacrifice enough, probably 2 lands, to the Gargadon, get a 5th creature on the board for bombardment if needed.
Oh, she could also sack the Mana Crypt too, which is actually putting her in a pretty precarious position currently. So that would actually, oh man, every time you look back at Rebel's board, she's setting up something just more impressive. I've been very impressed. But anyway, it does look like Jamaican dude has cast Malcolm at this point, so something's going on. It looks like Charles is maybe untapping. Or, this is just all discussion. That you can tell this game is just balanced on a razor blade's edge, man. Like, it's about to fall in one direction or the other.
They're really deep into it. And if not for that Grafdigger's Cage, I suspect Rebel would have been able to go for the win last turn. If not for that Goblin Bombardment. I don't know that Ashani has the Glinthorn in hand, but it seems likely.
Yeah, I would agree. We... Ace, when he was still casting before Sheldon stepped in, was pretty certain that he had it without any indication that, he had it. And I think I agreed with him just the way he's been playing. It kind of feels like he has it, like he's like so ready to do it. He's been super protective of Malcolm, which is obviously smart, but that's kind of what it feels like. But you were right. Rebel could have won the turn prior, but I think it was actually the Deafening Silence that maybe stopped her. Like, obviously the Grafdigger's Cage was what was stopping her, but it looked like she also had a line if she could have got the Cradle with the crop rotation, but couldn't cast it on her turn, unfortunately, and has had to switch to getting an opposition agent in play on Ashani's turn here.
Right, and it's interesting whether or not the Grand Abolisher was what she wanted to get there. It's possible that a Leon and Relic Warder would have been able to get rid of the Deafening Silence, but that might not also have gotten her there either. So it's an interesting balance between setting up to go for it when it gets back around to her versus whether or not it will get back around to her.
Yeah, definitely. And she also, Rebel's a great player, so she probably thought this through, certainly, like has a plan for it, but she did sacrifice an Archon of Emeria, so that it's not like there's no cost there. That Archon was slowing down the whole game and really putting a damper on other people's mana development.
That's very true. It'll be interesting to see if anyone can take advantage of that here. Ashani's probably the best position to do it because his deck is a little more focused on creatures, so it's able to play through that Deafening Silence a little better. But I wonder if Pongo will be able to turn something around here now that lands aren't going to be coming into play tap for him.
Yeah, I would not be sure. I mean, Pongo has definitely been the one kneecapped the worst by the turn. The game started with a turn 1 Archon of Emeria, and it was just, Pongo was already going forth, and it had been just kind of devastating for him up till this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if he could just win on a moment's notice, if that were the case.
All right, so it looks like here at the end of a phase we have, or before the end of the turn, we have Rebel taking out the bird token, which had 1 damage already. From the Thopter being sacrificed before the Dockside. So that keeps Jitte from getting any counters.
Yep, which is smart. I mean, Rebel has X1s in play, so it makes sense that you would want to protect from a Jitte here. But now we're on to Charles's turn. Does he have the Triskelion or the Walking Ballista? Can he? Ooh, an Inventor's Sphere.
My goodness. Well, that is a strong play here.
It is good, but there's an opposition agent in play, so hopefully that is taken into account. Just has the Triskelion, so it's just in play.
Yeah, so Triskelion on the stack. I think while it's on the stack here is when Rebel's going to need to get that Gargadon into play.
I agree with you. So the problem for other people here is that you have to respond to Triskelion getting lifelink, and HELIOD can give Triskelion lifelink three separate occasions here. He has enough mana to do this. And it looks like Triskelion has resolved, so Pongo presumably doesn't have any way to stop it with a free counterspell. Maybe someone has a deflecting swat or something, but I can't. I don't think Pongo's going to really have a way to stop this. It feels to me like it's going to come down to, does Rebel have a way to break this up?
Right. And I suppose the way she's going to have to do it at this point, because it looks like the Heliod's already been activated once to try and give it lifelink. I don't know if that's resolved yet, but it looks like she might have to try and go counter by counter as they get removed to try and ping it down, which I think Charles can probably play around that.
It depends. It really depends where Rebel chooses to start this fight, because if Rebel just lets the lifelink resolve and responds to the first trigger, then I think Rebel can win this fight. But if Rebel tries to do it in response to the lifelink, I think Charles is going to win.
Right. And
so it's tough.
Yeah, and it kind of looks like Ashani might have something here.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe not, but he's been touching his lands a little bit in his hand. I'm curious to see if maybe there's something hidden there as a second card in hand. Checking to see what he might have here. He's already used the snap.
We did think that one of those cards was a Glinthorn Buccaneer, but he also just didn't go for it, so maybe it wasn't.
Right. He could have a Cyclonic Rift here.
And he definitely has enough mana to rift the whole board too.
Right. And rifting the whole board would be quite an interesting.
Okay, so it looks like lifelink has resolved. Triskelion now has lifelink, and Charles is attempting to hit something. It doesn't matter. If the chain starts happening, the Triskelion will kill the whole table. So it's do or die now for the competitors here.
And this is where the squeeze really gets put on a player to play the best they can.
Okay, so Opposition Agent and TYMNA have been sacrificed to put 2 triggers targeting Triskelion. I think Rebel could have stacked this better. I'm not sure exactly how that was. The Triskelion should die if you had done that one at a time. Because it would have 1 damage marked on it. So maybe Rebel stacked both triggers?
Looks like it. And this will be another one. So
now it's going to have 1 more damage pointed at it.
Right.
And this will break it up.
Okay, so he removes the last counter. So now Rebel's going to need to get the Gargadon out, I believe is how this gets broken up.
Okay, yep. So Rebel's just going to have to cast the Gargadon and then sack it and then be left with no board state, essentially.
And that's what we see.
Okay. So we thought that was going to happen. Now Rebel's previously just absolutely dominant position, not looking so dominant anymore. Just a lot of a lot of painful mana and a low life total and no creatures in play. So wow, that was crazy. That has really changed the game. I'm curious if Charles has a follow-up here. Was this just a bait out what was going on? He only has one card left in hand, it appears.
Well, without the opposition agent gone, this does set him up well for the next turn because he can use that Inventor's Fair to search up the Walking Ballista.
Sure.
I'm not sure what card that is.
It's a Devoted Caretaker. So for people that don't know, 1 mana, 1/2, 1 in tap. Target permanent you control gains protection from instant spells and from sorcery spells until end of turn. So a way to protect, a Ballista or, a Triskelion if you had a Triskelion from like a kill spell, like a snap maybe, or something of the sort. But it looks like he's going to opt just to equip Jitte and pass the turn here. And now it's Pongo's turn. And for the first time this game, Pongo gets to have a turn with really only a Deafening Silence stopping him. There's nothing to be particularly scared of from Rebel's board. And it doesn't seem like Jamaican Dude has very many cards in hand to do anything. And Pongo has cards. He has not cast very many spells. He's got a full grip. I want to see what he can do here.
Right. If he's got a piece, something like an Abrupt Decay or a Chain of Vapor here to get rid of that Deafening Silence, this could be a big turn for him.
Oh, I mean, he even took the last turn or whatever, or maybe it was 2 turns ago. I'm not positive, to untap the Mana Crypt, so it has a ton of mana available. Okay, it looks like we're starting by casting Winds of Rebuke.
Oh my goodness.
So I think he had a Scalding Tarn. Maybe he chose not to actually play it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Winds of Rebuke will probably win the game, but it looks like, Jamaican Dude with the REB to stop it.
That is a strong response. And because the Deafening Silence is still in play, Pongo can't respond to this with an instant.
Yeah, and you have to imagine Pongo would have, have the counterspell in hand. He still has the full grip too, so that's devastating. The Deafening Silence just hurting again.
Absolutely. And I don't think he has a creature-based way to get rid of the Deafening Silence. Nothing like Caustic Caterpillar or anything.
Yeah, that seems sort of unlikely. And his deck does not play very many creatures to begin with, so
no, it's only got 9, and they're almost all mana creatures or win cons.
Yep. So I would not be shocked if the rest of his turn is just playing iKRAUM Shadiki, given he's already cast his 9-creature spell for the turn.
Right, and he's got 2 colorless still floating, so iKRAUM
should be
probably the play here.
Well,
that's an Orcish Lumberjack.
Okay. Yep, we have an Orcish Lumberjack in play. So can make more mana. Still could cast an iKRAUM Shadiki, I believe. Should have 2 colorless floating.
Yep.
I don't think he's played a land either. It looked like he had he definitely had a Scalding Tarn in hand he was considering playing, and maybe he chose not to play it.
Yeah. We'll see the past turn.
Interesting.
Double down to just 3 mana available. That's rough.
I really thought the Greater Gargadon had less counters on it. Obviously, it's just hard to see with the dice on them, but it's surprising that
it was on 3 counters, but it seems like it was on more. So that's a little rough.
Yep. Well, definitely a rough spot. Only at 10. Looks like she also lost the Mana Crypt flip. And no blockers either. I'm actually kind of surprised Pongo didn't swing with Kraum there.
Yeah. Although, I'll be honest, I don't know that swinging at Rebel would have been a correct call. I think Kraum maybe should have been pointed at Charles there.
Okay, I could buy that. He does have a creature with a Jitte on it and looks, has an Inventor's Fair for the Walking Ballista next turn, combined with tons of mana. So you are right.
Right, and Kraum can fly, and, that's... Except would have taken him from 20 to 16. That's not nothing. It's not great,
certainly not.
Nothing.
Certainly not. Well, it does seem like everyone's pretty empty on resources though at this point. So
I guess the big question becomes down to what does Jamaican Dude have as his last card? If it is, as we have suspected, a Glinthorn Buccaneer, he may be in the clear here.
Certainly, and keep in mind too, even though Rebel, had to go for that pretty brutal Goblin Bombardment turn there to break up the win, she does still have access to a Wishclaw Talisman, and when you can get any single card out of a CEDH deck, you got a lot of powerful cards you can get. There is got to be something she can do with that.
Very true. I almost wonder if she should have activated the Wishclaw and sacrificed it to Gargadon on her last turn, if that would have been slightly better for her. Because of the Grand Abolisher play, kind of seemed like it was setting her up to go for it on this turn, had that nuking of her board not happened.
Yeah, definitely. It's felt to me like she's had a plan for this thing the whole game.
Absolutely.
Ace was thinking there was going to be some Force of Vigor shenanigans going on. You also have the option of just activating it at a point where it's lethal and you just don't need to sacrifice it.
Right, exactly.
So, I have to assume she's got a plan for it. There's no chance she doesn't. She's just such a strong player. So
there's been bit by bit, this has been pretty laid out for what each person's plan has been, but there's been just enough interaction from the rest of the table to make none of those plans work yet.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so can we do a quick threat assessment from where we're sitting right now? We're on Rebel's turn. She's gonna make her land drop. I'm sure she has a bunch of cards in hand because she's been going pretty hard with TYMNA. But who do you think's in the lead at the current moment?
So I like Charles' position here.
Okay.
Simply because he's got that Inventor's Fair that can help him go get that Ballista. Jamaican dude with only one card in hand, if it's Glinthorn, he's not terribly positioned. If it's something other than Glinthorn, it depends a lot on what it is.
Okay.
And Pongo might be fine if it gets back around to him, especially if he's got a second piece of removal that he can perhaps play on Charles's end step. For example, an Abrupt Decay on the end step here would be just, and probably put him in a really good spot to go for it.
I could buy that. So, okay, it looks like Rebel has decided that she's going to discard a Disciple of the Vault, and I believe this is a Dockside Extortionist. So we're getting a Dockside Extortionist. Yeah, we lost all of our mana to the Greater Gargadon plus Bombardment combination during Charles's last turn, but Dockside's really good at making up for someone losing a lot of mana. Especially when it's the second Dockside. So yes, Jamaican dude currently has, I believe, 6 treasures?
Yeah, it looks like it's making 13 if I'm counting correctly. That's a lot of treasure.
That's a lot of treasures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I mean, keep in mind that people
13,
play
yep.
Cabal Therapy in Legacy because it's a +3 mana on a
14 treasures. We missed the Mox Diamond.
Oh my goodness. So this is +12 mana. That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And no, you're right. I think you said Cabal Therapy, but
Or Cabal Ritual. Yeah, sorry.
Cabal Ritual, yeah. Any ritual that generates 3 mana is strong. Like, very strong. Generating 12 is, like, broken. Honestly, I mean, it's just, like, unheard of broken. That's enough to cast, like, an Eldrazi Titan.
It's very good. And, of course, with Ashani having those treasures, he probably doesn't want to sacrifice them based on what's in his hand. He's probably got a plan for those. Because oftentimes in this situation, you might see someone sacrifice some number of their treasures to limit the impact of the second Dockside. But it doesn't look like Ashani is going for that right now, which suggests to me that whatever's in his hand, he's got a big plan for.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because if you just had nothing, like, you would have at least sacked, 3 or 4 of them, right? You have to imagine.
Absolutely. It does look like the Dockside is still on the stack, though, so they appear to be having some discussion over it.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And I believe Charles has no hand, so I don't think he has anything he can do at the moment. So it seems like it's just between Jamaican Dude and Pongo. So we'll see what they do. Maybe, okay, so it does look like Ashani is just deciding maybe how many treasures to sack.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is with that Disciple in the yard, that is actually a card that becomes, at this point in the game, a lot better with all these treasures floating around. Because anytime anybody sacrifices a treasure, the Disciple could trigger. But now that it's in the yard, you don't have that ability to start pinging people for one.
Sure. Well, and here it looks like the the Dockside Socialist has just resolved, and now Rebel has 14 treasures. So
That's
the question
so much.
here, the question here is, what do you do now that you have all these treasures?
I mean, all those treasures, I think 3 cards in hand and a Survival of the Fittest, plus a Wishclaw Talisman, there's a chance she could go for it here. If she's got a creature and a removal, or even if she's just got a creature, she can tutor for a removal spell, remove the Grafdigger's Cage, and just go for it.
Okay,
Alright,
that looks
so-
like a Diamond Lion.
That's a lesser mana core, and it looks like it's
Lesser
being
mana core,
discarded to Survival of the Fittest.
Got it. Okay, lesser mana
Now-
core because it's a persist creature that works with
Right.
Protean Hulk combo.
Right. But now we have
And-
2 pieces of that Hulk pile in the yard, because the Disciple and the Lesser Mana Core are both part of it.
Sure. And
Or
here's
lesser
the
mana.
Leonin Relic Warder that you mentioned prior. I have to imagine this is targeting the Grafdigger's Cage, right?
I have to imagine, and I think she probably will sacrifice it with the trigger on the stack, because that will put it in her graveyard, in case she has something like, does she run? Yeah, Animate Dead, and then if she's got something that combos with that. I don't know if she has...
Well, yeah. So even if it doesn't combo, it's definitely
Oh,
it's
she's
definitely
got
smart
the-
to sack it.
the Goblin Bombardment combos with it. I'm sorry. That alone would actually do it here. If she's got... And she's got the Wishclaw Talisman, so she might just be able to win from this position.
I don't know what this is. Is that? This looks like some. Nope. Spell table's not going to tell me what this is.
No,
I assume this is a combo piece.
Oh, that is that looks like Tana.
Oh, Tana. Okay. All right. And here is the Relic Warder.
Yep.
Everyone else has said it's okay. Trigger on the stack. Yep. Gonna sack it to Goblin Bombardment, which is smart. You mentioned there's other reasons to get it into the graveyard, but even past that, Relic Warder is not a permanent exile if you let it resolve anything unchanged. Someone could just kill the Relic Warder and get the Grafdigger's Cage back in play. By sacrificing the Relic Warder with the exile target artifact trigger on the stack, the Grafdigger's Cage will be gone permanently and not be coming back.
Yep. And the Tana there potentially turns on Deflecting Swat as a answer to something once the... Well, no, she hasn't even played a non-creature yet, so the Deflecting Swat is just turned on here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what we see with Grafdigger's Cage now permanently exiled.
Okay, so down to 4 mana.
All right, so a body double. This is or a body snatcher. This is a crazy card that reanimates a creature from your graveyard, but also has some weird other text because it's mono black, and mono black requires that sort of stuff.
Yeah, old mono black cards had way more text than necessary. That tended to be the case.
Yeah. You got to have those drawbacks, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, it does appear she's casting the body double, body snatcher.
Yeah, body snatcher.
Okay, body snatcher.
So we'll see what she gets back here.
It looks like she's targeting Grand Abolisher.
Wow.
It seems to be what has been indicated.
Okay.
So, I mean, once the Grand Abolisher's in play, this is going to be it. Like, she's going for it here, and if someone can break it up, which I don't... There's nothing in play that so far that will stop it. Like, there's no activated thing that's stopping her from... You can't even activate abilities of Grand Abolisher in play, right?
No, Grand Abolisher will just makes it so it's her turn and her turn alone.
Okay, so once Grand Abolisher's in play, she just has to find the line. The hate piece that was stopping her is gone. And it looks like it's here now. So we just need to find the line.
Right. So I'm
Still
look here.
Still has access to 4 mana, but certainly would not be surprised to see her get something like an Animate Dead here. If she needed more mana, with the Goblin Bombardment already in play. Oh, and that is Animate Dead, I believe.
That is what it looks like.
Yep. Bringing back Leon and Relic Warder?
Yep.
Why
Well,
are we
here's the
targeting
thing.
Relic Warder?
So the Relic Warder with Animate Dead here, you get it back. You
Yeah.
have the trigger on the stack. You're able to it'll exile the Animate Dead. With the
Okay.
Animate Dead exile trigger, or leaves play trigger on the stack, that would require you to sacrifice the Lead in Relic Order. You sacrifice the Goblin Bombardment to shoot somebody.
Yep.
The Animate Dead comes back. You get back Relic Order.
Okay, so it's
you
just
loop
an
it.
infinite combo.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, so it does look like that combo was enough to win the game, and there you've seen it. Rebel with the unbelievable sacrifice my entire board to stop the win from Charles here. Come back and still finding the win on our next turn. Unbelievable. It was a crazy game.
What a good game. My lord. That is one of the most exciting games I have seen in recent memory. Very well played by all the players, even with the, even Pongo playing from behind the whole game did a great job. Ashani playing through that misplay or a different line that we maybe didn't see. I'm not quite sure what the decision with the chord was, but whatever it was, we had basically, I think whoever was able to go off that turn was going to, based on the resources they had in hand. And it just happened that Rebel was able to do it without getting stopped first.
Totally agree, and you're right. That was such an amazing game. It felt like any player could have won at any time. The politics to figure out who needed to stop who where was just super intricate. Awesome game. But thank you everybody for checking out Game 1. Remember, we have 2 more matches this coming. We still have a Western Conference Final. We still have the total finals of the Mox Bowl. And before all of that, we're gonna send you guys back to Alan at the desk and have some of the analysts give you a better breakdown of that game than we're prepared to do. So thanks everybody for watching, and with that, I will talk to you later.